Are you born in August? Then you may just be a Leo, the sign of Hercules and the lion, with a constellation of more than 70 stars visible to the naked eye. Leo is known as a fiery sign because when the sun, which rules the house of Leo, produces heat, it looks like that of a raging lion. Hence the origin of its name. With that tidbit about Leo the lion, here's welcoming you to Kaleidoscope with me, Savithri Rodrigo, for a program filled to the brim with very interesting news, opinions, chats and cuisine delights. On our Selling Life, let's talk. COVID transformations is what we are on about. How designer Michael Vijay Surya transformed from weddings to burgers. How Arundhati Pearson resigned from her job in tourism and went into bakes. And how travel industry leader Quest Destinations converted from travel to assisted care. Those are the stories you need to look forward to. On our People's Bank News Capsule this week, Country Head of Acuity Knowledge Partners Chanakya Disanayaka urges the new government to leverage on its landslide victory. Co-chairperson of Prime Lands Group, Sandamini Pereira, is optimistic about the real estate industry. MD CEO of Selling Life, Tushara Ranasinghe, urges retirement planning. And buying right is what founder CEO of Sare Village, Charita Aberatna Hettiarachchi, wants us to do. On Life in 60, we have a treat. The Asylum tosses up a Spanish paella mixta. Of course, there's lots more, so let's get on with the show.
Technology is key in moving forward to transform every challenging moment into a profit, where manual becomes digital, business becomes smart, and lives become smarter. People's Bank Online Corporate Banking. It's truly the change you need.
On our People's Bank News Capsule this week, we have seen a week of change. Let's start with the price of gold, which has been rising in the last few weeks. But this week, the price of gold fell, and the US dollar and oil prices both moved upwards. And speaking of change, Sri Lanka swore in a new cabinet after the Sri Lanka Podujana Perumana gained a landslide victory in the general election. With the twin setbacks of the Easter attacks last year and COVID-19 this year, the new government has to look at fiscal space to get the economy back on track. Leveraging on the momentum of the landslide victory would be a good place to start, opines the country head of Acuity Knowledge Partners, which was formerly Moody's Analytics, Chanakya Disanayaka, when he spoke to Kaleidoscope.
The election landslide we saw last week has elected in a government with high degree of political stability, perhaps something that we last saw in 1977. I really hope that this political capital, this political stability is leverage to drive measures, implement policies, take bold policy actions that will drive long-term economic prosperity for all Sri Lankans. Some of the hard to implement policies like strong economic integration with the regional superpower India by way of ports investments as a strong second to China's already established investments in Sri Lanka. Other measures including strengthening Sri Lanka's economic partnership with the West, prioritizing investments in Sri Lanka's education sector and the university sector that could further strengthen the main performing segments in Sri Lankan economy, like the services segment, can lead to strong economic prosperity for all Sri Lankans.
With COVID-19 cases globally surpassing 20 million and increasing health and social problems ensuing, the economic fallout is clearly being felt only now. In Sri Lanka, the non-performing loans in the non-bank finance sector hit a high of over 16%, which may lead to a drop in NBFI asset quality, which is far higher than those of the banking sector. ICRA Lanka, a part of Moody's Investors Services, analysed that the construction industry's challenges are cascading to the NBFI sector via small contractors, subcontractors and suppliers. However, when it comes to the real estate market, Prime Group's co-chairperson Sandhamini Pereira stated that while COVID-19 is reshaping the real estate industry, Sri Lanka's successful handling of the pandemic has led to a positive impact in the real estate industry.
Just after COVID, there was a lot of uncertainty in the whole world. Real estate industry also faced the same challenge. However, since Sri Lanka managed to control it very efficiently, today I am extremely happy because real estate industry, especially residential market, performing very well. Low interest rates gives double effect to our industry. One is it encourages mortgages and easy access to credit. In the same way, it discourages savings and deposits. So these both are very favorable to our industry.
In a report published recently, KPMG recommended more fundamental policy reform at national level to attract FDIs and expatriate demand in the real estate market. And here's good news for Sri Lankan entrepreneurs and especially the manufacturing sector. Foxconn, a company in Taiwan, is gradually adding more capacity outside of China, the main base of production for gadgets from iPhones to Dell desktops and Nintendo Switches. The proportion manufactured outside China is now at 30%, up from 25% last June, with the ratio expected to rise as Foxconn moves more manufacturing to Southeast Asia to avoid escalating tariffs on Chinese-made goods headed to US markets. At the Colombo stock market, there was a sense of positivity. The indices moved up by 1.2% and the average daily turnover was up to 1.9 billion rupees. Sri Lanka's senior citizens currently represent a little over 12% of the total population, and it is estimated that nearly a fourth will be over 60 years of age in a few decades. The implications to an aging population is far-reaching, with dependencies rising, savings being insufficient over life cycles, and working-age population declining. Managing Director and CEO of Selingco Life, Tusharo Ranasinghe, showcases some salient advice on being prepared for the inevitable: retirement.
Some of the key issues concerning retirement planning. They say that life insurance is needed because people die too soon, but pensions are needed because people live too long. And when you take Sri Lanka, today's life expectancy for males is at 73 years and females is at 79 years. Another important factor is that in Sri Lanka, the extended family concept is breaking down. So one has to plan to live by oneself after retirement, unlike in the past. Now, there are 3 points to consider in the retirement planning process. First is you must set yourself a retirement goal. For instance, if you want to receive rupees 50,000 a month, you need to have a retirement capital of about 10 million rupees to get a monthly income of 50,000 a month. Then you have to set aside these funds in a very prudent manner. If you select your funds carefully, your retirement capital will be safe. You have to invest in rated banks or government treasury bills and bonds. The third factor is that you have to start very early, because if you start close to retirement, there will be hardly any time for the retirement capital to build up. So the 3 main steps in retirement planning is to set yourself a goal, to select prudent investments, and to start early.
Meatless hamburgers, electric cars, non-leather footwear, zero-waste shops. We now have a new consumer, the conscious consumer. These are consumers who are taking into account ethical, social, and environmental values before committing to a purchase, which is what we all need to do if we are to continue living safely on this planet. Here's the founder and CEO of Sare Village, Charitha Aberatna Hettiarachchi, on some things we need to remember about conscious consumption.
Responsible consumerism for me is all about a sustainable mindset. It's about understanding how our purchase decisions ultimately impact the downstream value chain. It's our decisions, it's our needs that suppliers are trying to meet. So it's important that we ask for ethical products that actually have a positive impact on the environment, on the society, and ultimately the economy as well. We are smart consumers. We are at an age where information is at our fingertips. We can ask the questions. We no longer have excuses to say that we didn't know that there are better alternates. So as smart global consumers, it is our responsibility to search for information. It's our responsibility to find ethical products and understand how it impacts us and how it impacts the producer and how it will impact the future generations as well. So each and every purchase decision should be thought of carefully.
COVID-19 makes people do strange things. A Chinese businessman has commissioned an Israeli jeweler to craft the priciest mask in the world. Isaac Levi will be crafting a gold and diamond encrusted mask in 18-karat gold and 3,600 black and white diamonds fitted with the highest rated N99 filter, and the price $1.5 million US. And with that bit of news, let's turn to more positive things that COVID-19 has done. Some entrepreneurs and businesses have changed their course and begun working on new things. Let's find out more about these COVID transformations on Selinco Life. Let's talk.
With Selinco Life Pension Saver, Sri Lanka's premier retirement plan, start planning for a retirement today. Selinco Life, a relationship for life.
So welcome to our Selinco Life Let's Talk. How many times have you heard people say, if life gives you lemons, make lemonade? COVID definitely brought with it lemons for lots of people. Industries that seemed to be strong and stable just crumbled and jobs were no longer secure. Now, here are 3 stories of people who did not sit back and wallow in depression, but instead decided to take those lemons and give it a good old squeeze and make the best lemonade ever. They sat back, took stock of their talents and resources and decided to change course. Drastic courses, in fact. Arundhati Pearsena worked at Jetwing ever since she graduated in 2007. But when COVID-19 hit, she realized that her once stable job was not so stable and resigned. She fell back on 2 things she knew she could do well: bake and start working on her family property, House on a Hill in Harbourava. Then there's Quest Destinations, which for 15 years has ferried hundreds of Sri Lankans to bucket list destinations all over the world. But with COVID-19, realized that the travel industry has all but shut down. A quick stock of its 32-strong talent pool and care was the topmost resource that stood out. And what was most needed out there? Assisted care for the aged and those left alone. And thus, the very first assisted care service in the country, Quest Care, came into being. Based on its concept of service, the Quest team now accompany, visit, run errands, help with telephone calls, deliver gifts and give spiritual support, and even arrange surprises for those who have no loved ones around. Even gardening, concierge services, housekeeping, transport and bill payments are done. And we have renowned designer Michael Vijaysurya, whose creative hand has touched more than 6,000 brides and their retinues in a 30-year career. COVID brought weddings to a halt, and Michael, the designer, went back to his roots, a hotel school graduate whose first job was as a chef in the US. A quick turnaround later, there was Michael the chef, crafting lamprey, burgers, lasagna and barbecue platters, putting in the same amount of meticulous detail as he would when crafting fairy tale weddings. And there emerged Michael's catering debut, Hunger Strike. So I asked Arundhati, whose baking business is called Dainty Bakes by E, chairperson of Quest Destinations Lalani Pereira, and designer turned chef Michael Vijaysurya, why they thought there was opportunity in the business areas they ventured into.
Basically, I started thinking about this during COVID lockdown, where I saw a lot of home bakers on social media. A lot of them came up, and what happened was restaurants also, they were on delivery. They were only allowed on delivery, and so home bakers also, home cooks and home bakers also started to do the same thing because they can do the same thing. And the next thing was, because of COVID, hygiene was a big deal. Everyone was concerned about it, so it was a matter of trust of a person, whether you would trust a restaurant who would go through the cleanliness process properly, or a known home cook who you know will do it. So basically people had the option whether to choose the restaurant or a home cook, so they got sort of like an equal ground.
With the COVID and the lockdown, people, like most of the children who live abroad, are unable to come back. So the parents who live in Sri Lanka, I felt like to make sure that they are looked after where there will be opportunity. So our main thing is to be a friend to a such person who is at home. And our staff who are really friendly and hospitality wise, like they are really good with the training they have got on going on tours. So I thought it's a good opportunity to make use of the staff for a thing like this.
Dates back to 30 years before I got in the fashion industry. I actually qualified in as a hotelier. So my beginnings were as a chef when I worked in the US. So I think that is what drove me to doing a thing like this. So
Arundhati's love for hospitality, though, continues with her other venture, House on a Hill. But Arundhati, why the villa at this point of time when tourism is probably at its lowest ebb?
The carefree vacation where everyone knew about is changing. When that happens, people are more prone to look for that carefree vacation. So they look for alternatives. And that's where they look for options where they can go just with the family and friends to a place where they can isolate themselves from other people. They know that there aren't crowds and they can have the entire place for themselves. That's where I thought that would be a good opportunity for us, because we already had this bungalow on top of a hill in Padukka that is close to Colombo also. For somebody new like me, it was a real opportunity to get skilled labor at the budget that I can afford.
So when you look at both your home baking business and your villa, how do you see it panning out in the new normal once we get back, hopefully, into some kind of normalcy?
Since my businesses are very small, the baking and the villa, they are very small, you can adapt into different demands that will come post-COVID. And my plan is to establish myself for the coming years, and then if ever we come to an era where there is no COVID, I'll have a better budget, I'll have more experience, and my brands will be known as well.
Lalani describes how resources have been reallocated and how the travel industry will never be the same again.
When things get into normal, we can have more staff coming in and let go this staff to do their own travel, and we will expand in this area, the caregiving area.
As a traveler, what do you think we need to have readied before we travel?
It's going to be very expensive. It's not going to be easy like those days. Beforehand, you have to have the COVID test done. And maybe when you arrive in that particular country, again another test. In certain countries, you have to wait the 2 weeks in quarantine. So unless it's really necessary, I don't think anyone would want to travel.
The man behind Hunger Strike and a designer whose gowns have won pageants and seen brides look like princesses speaks of how things will change in the industry he's so familiar with.
Well, I think in the last 3-4 years I've been contemplating downscaling the whole thing, the design business, because there are so many designers around, hairdressing salons, and the bridal market just fluxed with, everybody who's doing it. So I thought, there's no place, just that a handful of people who really wanted our product who were there, but then it was like, mass market, which is available all around. So I think time of COVID and the lockdown is what I had a lot of positive vibes from, because being alone for 3 months, actually living alone for 3 months, doing my own thing, no work, not meeting people, not greeting people, gave me time to actually get this going. I sort of put a few things together and got my sister around. I said, let's utilize the staff we have. I have about 16 working for me, and the females who do work for me are now assisting me in the catering side, where we are now doing like a home cooked meal sort of thing that we provide on a delivery basis so far.
How do you see weddings panning out in the new normal?
People are going in, doing courses. People who are within the industry are just taking people, giving them diplomas. What weight does that carry? I mean, there's no professional backing to some of the people who run classes and courses cannot do anything on their own. So I see a lot of things, and after COVID also, I thought, we had so many cancellations, postponements, downscaling of weddings. A lot of things are changing where people are now again calling in. Even last month, I was shocked at the amount of work I got. I was amazed. But now this month, nothing, because due to the situation at the moment in the country, everything got postponed again.
If there's one lesson to learn from all three here, it is this: always think positive. We can overcome even the biggest challenges. It's about how you look at life, positively, optimistically, and with hope. Lots of it. Thank you, Arandhati Piyasena, Lalani Pereira, and Michael Vijaysurya for joining me on Selinco Life. Let's talk.
With Selinco Life Pension Saver, Sri Lanka's premier retirement plan, start planning for your retirement today. Selinco Life, a relationship for life.
When we get back, you and I will join Asylum's executive chef, Nishad Jayawardena, and make the most scrumptious Spanish paella mixta. That's on Life in 60. Oh, we so need to get some Spanish flavors into our lives. Come, let's go to the Asylum Lounge Bar and Restaurant and join Executive Chef Nishad Jayawardena as he tosses up a most delicious Spanish paella mixta in Life in 60.
Today we are going to show how to make the Asylum style Spanish paella mixta. So we'll start with the butter spread. I'm going to add some chicken meat, thigh. After the little while, I'm going to add some bell pepper into that. So now I'm going to add some stock water into that. Short grain paella rice. The spices. Pork sausage and New Zealand green mussel. We are going to add the saffron, Iranian saffron into this. It's giving the color and the aroma.
Delicious.
Thank you so much.
I assure you that was a treat. Chef Nishad surely knows his paella and lots more too. Grab yours at the Asylum Lounge Bar and Restaurant. Thank you very much, Executive Chef Nishad Jayawardena, for joining us on Life in 60 with your super culinary flavors. And so, if you want to give us any feedback, suggestions or stories you'd like to see, please email us on kaleidoscope1@gmail.com. And if you would like to watch us on Let's Talk Life in 60 or our news capsule clips, you'll find it on our playlist on YouTube, or simply subscribe to Kaleidoscope with Savithri Rodrigo and join us weekly. So until next week, just remember, COVID-19 has not gone away. So ensure your safety and that of others too. Wear a mask. Now here's your Kaleidoscope takeaway. Nothing is predestined. The obstacles of your past can become the gateways that lead to new beginnings.